Okay, so magandang araw. Ang topic natin ngayon ay Introduction to Limits. So, let's start. Consider the function 1 over x. If x equals 1, then f of 1 equals 1 over 1 equals 1. If x equals 10, then f of 10 equals 1 over 10 equals 0.1. If x equals 100, then f of 100 equals 1 over 100 equals 0.01. Kung mapapansin nyo, habang lumalaki ang value ng x, lumiliit ang value ng f of x. At hindi lang yan, nag-a-approach to 0 ang value ng f of x as x gets bigger and bigger, or as x approaches to infinity. Ganito ang concept ng limit. As x approaches to a certain value, may idea tayo kung ang f of x ba ay papalapit sa isang value o hindi. So ngayon, ano ang definition ng isang limit? If f is some function, then limit of f of x as x approaches a equals L. Again, this is read as limit of f of x as x approaches to the value a is equal to L. Ibig sabihin nito, kung x ay papalapit sa a, ang f of x ay papalapit naman sa L. Pero take note, may ibang function na walang ganitong property sa lahat ng value ng a. Okay? Also, when we say x approaches to a, meron tayong dalawang direksyon. X approaches to a from the right and x approaches to a from the left. When we say x approaches to a from the right, it means ang i-consider mo lang na values ng x is yung mas malaki pa sa a. Halimbawa, if x approaches to 10 from the right, ang i-consider mo na values of x ay close to 10 and greater than 10, such as 10.1, 10.01, 10.001. Yung notation nito ay ito, may plus sa gilid ng 10. When we say x approaches to the left naman, yung i-consider mo na values ng x ay mas maliit sa a. Halimbawa, if x approaches to 10 from the left, i-consider mo na values ay mga values na close to 10 but less than 10, such as 9.9, 9.99, 9.999. So yung notation nito ay ito, may minus sign sa gilid ng 10. Therefore, we say x approaches a, it means x approaches to a from the right and x approaches to a from the left. Ang tawag sa ganitong limits ay one-sided limits. Limit of f of x as x approaches to a from the right is called the right-handed limit. The limit of f of x as x approaches to a from the left is called the left-hand limit. If nag-exist ang right-hand limit and yung left-hand limit and equal sila, that is, limit of f of x as x approaches to a from the right is equal to limit of f of x and x approaches to a from the left, and both are equal to L, we can conclude that the limit of f of x as x approaches a equals L. Kapag wala na yung plus and minus sign sa gilid ng a, ang tawag dyan ay two-sided limit. Para mas maintindihan natin yung konsepto ng one-sided and two-sided limits, let's have some examples. So consider limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100. Para makuha mo yung value ng two-sided limit na ito, kunin muna natin ang values ng right-hand and left-hand limits. That is, isolve natin ang limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches to 100 from the right and limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 from the left. So sa limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 from the right, we can consider x equals 100.1, 100.01, and 100.001 kasi greater than 100 sila at the same time close to 100. Okay, so if x equals 100.1, f of 100.1 is equal to 2 times 100.1 plus 1, which is equal to 201.2. If x equals 100.01, f of 100.01 equals 2 times 100.01 plus 1 equals 201.02. If x equals 100.001, f of 100.001 equals 2 times 100.001 plus 1 equals 201.002. As x approaches to 100 from the right, f of x gets closer to what value? Tama, 201. So limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 from the right is 201. Sa limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches to 100 from the left naman, we can consider x equals 99.9, 99.99, and 99.999. Kasi less than 100 sila at the same time close to 100 din. If x equals 99.9, f of 99.9 equals 2 times 99.9 plus 1 equals 200.8. If x equals 99.99, f of 99.99 equals 2 times 99.99 plus 1 equals 200.98. If x equals 99.999, f of 99.999 equals 2 times 99.999 plus 1 equals 200.998. As x approaches to 100 from the left, f of x gets closer to what value? Tama, 201 din. So limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 from the left is also 201. As you can see, the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 from the right equals the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 from the left, which is equal to 201. From this, makukonclude natin na the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches 100 is 201. Another example. So kanina, napag-usapan natin ng f of x equals 1 over x. So ngayon ay isosolve natin ang limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0. So para ma-solve to, kailangan muna natin isolve ang right hand and left hand limit nito. That is, isosolve natin ang limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 from the right and limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 from the left. So dito muna tayo sa limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 from the right. So yung value na close to 0 and greater than 0, we can try x equals 0.1, 0.01, and 0.001. If x equals 0.1, f of 0.1 equals 1 over 0.1, which is equal to 10. If x equals 0.01, f of 0.01 equals 1 over 0.01 equals 100. If x equals 0.001, f of 0.001 equals 1 over 0.001, which is equal to 1,000. Kung napapansin nyo, pataas ng pataas ang value ng f of x kahit magkalapit lang ang 0.1, 0.01, and 0.001. At ang f of x ay hindi nag-approach sa isang finite value. Ibig sabihin, f of x tends to go higher to infinity as x approaches to 0 from the right. Ibig sabihin, limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 from the right is positive infinity. Meanwhile, sa limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 from the left, we can try x equals negative 0.1, negative 0.01, and negative 0.001. Kasi they are close to 0 and also less than 0. So if x equals negative 0.1, f of negative 0.1 equals 1 over negative 0.1, which is equal to negative 10. If x equals negative 0.01, f of negative 0.01 equals 1 over negative 0.01 equals negative 100. If x equals negative 0.001, f of negative 0.001 equals 1 over negative 0.001 equals negative 1,000. As you can see, pababa ng pababa ang value ng f of x kahit magkalapit lang din ang negative 0.1, negative 0.01, and negative 0.001. Ang f of x ay hindi nag-approach sa isang finite value. Ibig sabihin, f of x tends to go lower and lower to negative infinity as x approaches 0 from the left. Kaya, limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0 from the left is negative infinity. If we compare the two-sided limits, they are not equal. This means that the limit does not exist o walang value ang limit of 1 over x as x approaches 0. Hanggang dito lang muna tayo ngayon at huwag kalimutang i-click ang bell icon at subscribe button. Hanggang sa muli!